Good morning, everybody. It is 8 o'clock by my clock, so I want to get started so that we can make sure to get through all of the content and make sure that you have plenty of time to ask questions at the end. So thank you for being here. I know it's been an intense start to the school year, and I appreciate everybody who is up here at 8 o'clock ready to learn about Schoology, our learning management system for grades 6 to 12. So this is covering the basics, and I hope that the email was clear. If you are not a secondary teacher, then this session may not be the best for you. It is going to be the learning management system for secondary schools. And if you teach another grade, you may access things like your curriculum through Schoology, but a lot of this content will not be relevant to you. So a few notes about this session. So we are doing what's called live streaming in the session, and we are also recording it. And that's to make sure that any DPS staff member can watch this without any interruptions. So we wanted to be clear that this is not designed to be a model of good synchronous teaching. The first hour or so is going to be presenting to you, and the last hour is going to be dedicated to answering questions. So there is a question and answer document, a back channel document, we call it, that's available. And if you didn't get it through your confirmation email last night, you can access it by typing tinyurl.com/DPS Schoology Basics into another tab in your browser. This sheet will include links to the sign-in sheet, to the slide deck for the presentation. It's going to include contact information for the digital coaches and also a chance for you to type your questions and get answers while the session is running. So we have a few of my colleagues who are moderating in the background, and they will be typing answers on the document as questions come up during the session. So again, just to repeat in case you came in a little bit later, it can give an overview to any staff who want to learn a little bit more about Schoology, but only grades 6 to 12 are going to be using Schoology with their students. So the district has a few clarifications that they asked us to make, and that's around really how they are approaching this unusual school year that we are embarking upon. So this slide is about the crisis priorities that the Denver Public Schools Board of Education confirmed. So the 3 goals, crisis priority 1 is really addressing the health and safety needs of students and employees, with a particular focus on the most vulnerable students. Priority 2 is about socio-emotional and mental health needs of students and employees, and again, focusing on the most vulnerable. Crisis priority 3 is engaging all students in learning and mitigating the interrupted schooling that we experienced due to COVID-19 and the sudden shift to remote learning in the spring. And again, focusing really on our English learners, our students with disabilities, people experiencing poverty, and students of color who are from historically marginalized and underserved populations. So if we plan for and execute a strategy for our return to school that's focused on the overall well-being of our students and staff, prioritizing racial equity and instructional excellence at the center, and including a specific focus on our defined health and safety safeguards and our academics and social-emotional learning objectives, then we will successfully provide safe, inclusive, and productive learning and work environments in the 2021 school year. And this graphic is really reinforcing how the district is approaching this. It includes engaging students who most need academic support, again, accelerating that interrupted schooling, and planning for fluidity across the scenarios because we are shifting our approach as the circumstances deem necessary, and making sure that we are still thinking about all of these things when we are scheduling staffing with regards to facility access, the health and behavior norms that we are encouraging our students and staff to take, transportation, and food service. So there were some key insights from the spring 2020 evaluation of remote learning. So there are 2 big priorities with that. And again, they look back to the previous slide. We are going to be engaging students who need the academic support the most, including we have some data that our Native American students were less likely to have internet access, and that their attendance and engagement were much lower during the remote learning period, that students on IEPs still needed extensive support at home to access and complete the assignments, and they didn't necessarily receive that support, and therefore their attendance engagement may have been impacted. Our English learners, their families were significantly concerned that their students were falling behind. Our Black students were less likely to have had access to a device. And some of our students just didn't engage during our online learning this spring. Planning for fluidity across scenarios. So making sure that we set ourselves up for success for the very likely scenario that we will be in remote learning or maybe in and out of remote learning during the year. So making sure that we are establishing structures for the frequent teacher-student communication. Again, there's some research that our Black and Latinx students were 4 times as likely to not have heard from their teachers than their white counterparts. And also that teachers at our more affluent schools were more likely to have held regular office hours. Preparing for remote lessons and making sure that adult assistance isn't required for delivering that content, because less than half of our students have somebody who can always help them at home. And making sure that teachers are clearly communicating how they're going to grade and measure attendance. Because there was some reporting that the grade freeze policy resulted in confusion and maybe disengagement, and that parents were frustrated and confused by some of the inconsistent measures that were being applied during remote learning of attendance. So a few norms for today. We don't have many because we are live streamed. So you will notice that you have no access to audio and you have no access to chat in your Google Meet room. Instead, we are going to have this back channel support document. So this is the one that you can find at the tinyurl.com/DPS Schoology Basics. And that URL will be repeated on the next slide. But the document has some important hyperlinks to it. The first one at the top is looking at who your digital coach is. Every school has a dedicated digital coach to their region. And in order to find out which region you are in and who your digital coach is, you will want to be accessing the document that is hyperlinked here. It is not a huge team, and the regional digital coaches have lots and lots of schools that they support. So as much as possible, we are hoping to be able to build some capacity within your school and hope that you are willing to maybe lead the charge on learning Schoology right here today and helping build that capacity with your colleagues. There is also a link to the sign-in and the survey, and we want you to complete that at the end of the session because it's difficult to judge a session you haven't seen yet. There is a link to the slide deck that I am using right now. There's also a really fabulous and overwhelming but amazing document. It's the Schoology all-in-one, and if you bookmark that and use that to return to again and again, you will have lots of tutorials and short videos and ideas of your next steps in terms of engaging in Schoology. We will also be opening this up at the end. You will have an invitation to come into the Google Meet room to ask live questions if you prefer that format. And at the end of the session, we will include the webinar recording. Oh. Okay. So by the end of this session, you are going to be able to access the resources and tutorials that I just described that are going to help you use Schoology's basic functions. You are also going to be able to describe which stakeholders a learning management system connects together and identify some of the features of Schoology that support the district priority of equity. So in terms of the DPS, culturally responsive education, educator mindsets, this falls very heavily within my responsibility and high expectations. And as I said, if you are trying to access that back channel document, the tiny URL is on this slide and subsequent slides to make sure that you are successfully accessing that document. The core idea that I would like you to walk away with today is that Schoology is a powerful LMS. It has many capabilities, but the more you invest in learning about and maximizing the platform, the more it's going to pay off for you in terms of having consistency and maintaining high expectations for your students. So thank you guys for being here today. This is a start of a journey, but I hope that you will use it to start delving deeper and deeper into these capabilities and building your skills throughout the year. DPS is also using Schoology to help teachers safely deliver materials to students during remote learning environments. It also will help connect advisors, counselors, administrators, and parents to data that can help identify some of those most vulnerable children who need the extra support. And it is also a cohesive delivery platform that's going to help engage your students in learning, whether it's online or in person. So this is really going to be key to making sure that no matter what delivery mode you are in, your students will still be accessing their materials in a consistent way. So in terms of building on this session content, you can continue to build your skills by using the tutorials that I mentioned that are in the Schoology all-in-one resource, which is linked into that Q&A page. There are also digital coaches who are available to each teacher, so you can find out which coach supports your school and region using the link at the top of the question and answer page. And also, every teacher has what we call a sandbox course. And it's a sandbox because you can play around in it to familiarize yourself with some of the tools and capabilities. So before we return to school, I would like you to be able to access your curriculum resources. I would like you to be able to email your course members. I would like you to be able to create assignments and post an update so that when you are ready to start school, you have all of those skills in place. In the long term, I would like you to be able to use Schoology to effectively organize and deliver your course using assignments, links, due dates, and if your school is using Grade Passback, all of the relevant grading features available in the platform. So the intended impact on students is that students will feel equitably seen and supported through this platform. They'll have clear data on their progress, and they will understand that there's a community that is partnering with them to help them succeed. The support for you. I've mentioned digital coaches a few times, and on the left-hand side, you will see a graphic. And the top 6 of those coaches each support a region. So today on the call, we have Erin Magley from the Southwest region, and we have Matthew Willems from the Central region who are helping support the back channel question and answer session. My name is Erin Kimmel. I'm in the bottom center, and we also have chat support from Madia Garcia, who is the DOTS product manager for Schoology, and Stephen Holtz-Russell, who is the digital coach supervisor. And if you are having any difficulty accessing this tiny URL, the DPS Schoology Basics, the sign-in documents, I would invite you to take a minute here and write down Steve's email address. And if you send him a quick email right now, he will be able to assist you in getting information and that access to that document, because we know in the live stream, you don't have access to chat and you can't communicate to us very clearly. So again, that's going to be Stephen_Holtz-Russell at dpsk12.org. I'll give you a second in case you want to write that down. So our agenda for today is learning how to log into Schoology, how to navigate the platform, how to link your course sections, how to add and create content into Schoology, and how to post course updates. So again, if you have questions, go to the tiny URL and type in DPS Schoology Basics. Make sure you get on that question and answer page. Type your questions, and there will be all 4 of those people who are helping me out with this session who will be able to answer them while we are talking right now. So the first part is about logging in and how you log into Schoology. So Schoology is what we call a learning management system. And the power of a learning management system is being able to connect students, teachers, parents, and administrators. So really, all four of these key stakeholders are united in their ability to create a partnership in learning so that students can be the most successful. And I really like the graphic in the middle because a lot of people like to call it Schoology, and it's really much easier than you want to make it. It's Schoology. So in terms of accessing your account, all of the stakeholder groups can access Schoology by going to schoology.dpsk12.org. And if this is something that's useful for you, I like to bookmark that URL to my homepage so that I don't have to remember. One of the most common errors that we see when people are first getting into Schoology is they are not using the dpsk12.org version of it and are having difficulty. So please, if you want to take a minute to write this down, and then when you're finished, put a little star next to it on your browser and bookmark that page so that you can always access it. And it's a great idea if you are not making Schoology part of your landing page for students to teach them how to bookmark the URL as well. Schoology uses the single sign-in with Google. So just like many of the other programs we use, you will be invited to put in your dpsk12.net email address, and then it's going to take you to that DPS login screen with your username and password that you use for so many of your applications here. DPS students and staff are all automatically assigned an account. So there's nothing that you need to do for that. But parents and guardians will need to create an account, and they will do that through the parent portal. Again, there are tutorials and information on how to do this in that Schoology all-in-one hyperdoc page where you can pull that up and access materials in English and Spanish to help family members do that. So section 2 is about navigation. So learning how to find what you need in Schoology. So every time you access Schoology, you will see this blue bar at the top, and you can always make sure you are in the DPS Schoology because the DPS logo is going to be the icon in the top left. And this is going to be your home page. Whenever you click on that logo, it's going to take you back to the landing page for your schoology.dpsk12.org account. The first tab here is your courses tab. So it will be pre-populated with the courses that you are lead teacher for in IC, and also any courses that you are a member of. So you may be a co-teacher in another teacher's class. You may also see their class because you are down as a co-administrator in that course. Groups, again, is for any Schoology groups that you are going to be a part of. And the difference between groups and courses are for content delivery, making assignments, grading. Groups are really for updates and announcements. So your school may be using a Schoology group in order to centralize some of your school communication to staff, or your content area most likely has a group set up where you can access announcements and resources that they have compiled for your content area. Students can also be groups, so this can be a great way to get a group together if you are leading an extracurricular activity and want the students to be able to access announcements and resources that you might need for that activity. The resources here is a place to save your items, so think of it as a filing cabinet for your Schoology. On the right-hand side, you have access to a calendar, and the calendar will be pre-populated with any assignments that you put due dates into. So it's a great practice to make sure all your assignments have due dates, and then you and your students will be able to see at a glance what is due on each day through their calendar. The email icon here, the little envelope, is the message center. It is one of the ways that you can send a message to your students and colleagues through the platform. The bell is the notifications icon. So this will let you know when you have a new submission to an assignment, a request for a connection, or other notifications. This can be tailored to you. When you start using it, you will see that it will have a yellow circle with a number in it, and the number will tell you how many new notifications you have, just like you would get a notification about how many new emails you would get on your phone or something. If you feel like you are being overwhelmed with this, then you can potentially look into your settings and change what kind of notifications you'd like. The last part is your profile. So you will see you have an opportunity to change your picture and also update your name here. You can replace the assigned first name with a preferred first name, or you can replace it with a title. So groups, again, are very useful for resources and updates. You can access it through the Groups tab on the top of your navigation bar. And when you click it, you will see all of your group tiles appear in a dashboard. You can also click on the right-hand side where it says My Groups, and you can get a full listing of all of your groups. If you are a member of many, many groups like I am, you may not see every tile when you first launch the page. You may need to search for your group in that more extended listing. Sorry, groups are also great if you want to target communication. So some schools will set up a group for specific groups of students. You could set up a class of 2021 group, and then you can target that communication to those students, and then a 2022 group, etc. Or you can set up a group for all of your students who are English learners, and then you would be able to push out notifications when it comes close to access testing so that they would be able to see when their test schedules are, how it might impact, and you could even put some resources in if they wanted to practice and gain some familiarity with that test. Again, resources is like a filing cabinet. You can look into the resources. You have a chance to store personal resources, which are only for you. Public resources are part of the Schoology collaborative community, and these are resources that people have chosen to share from all kinds of schools who are using Schoology. Groups are where you will see that all kinds of DPS curriculum areas have a group that is set up. And if you take a look at this example of a group, this is the 7th grade literacy curriculum, and there are folders that contain things like your scope and sequence, some of the competencies and rubrics, and additional information. They may contain resources that you can drop straight into your course. Some of them will just have more reference material, and some curriculum leads will use this to post updates and announcements if they learn about something like a specific training opportunity or a grant opportunity that they think you might want to take advantage of. In the presentation, if you want to access it through the slide deck, there is a link to the DPS curriculum group codes. So if you want to access your group now, you could do that. There is also a link in that Schoology all-in-one page document. Courses are a little bit more extensive. So you have a couple of ways to access courses. Many people choose to use the course dashboard as their landing page. It's an option that you have to set up. There is a tutorial on how to do that. But once you get there, then you would see your courses in the order that you choose to move them to by reordering your classes when you first hit that home page on Schoology. You can also click where it says courses up here, and you will see the tiles show up below that. And finally, you can click on the hyperlink on the top right of that view to open up the full course listing of courses. If you are invited to join a course, you'll see on the right-hand side that there is a blue button in this My Courses full listing where you can click on that, and then you can enter the code. The current codes are about 13 letters and numbers long, so you have to be able to put that in really accurately in order to join a course. But again, these courses are going to be populated based on your IC rosters. So your students shouldn't need to join a course except in very rare circumstances. So they should be pre-populated and they should sync each night so that as students may move from your class or to your class, then they will also be able to be represented in those group members that are there. When parents access Schoology, they are able to come in and see what the students are seeing within their course. So this is one of the really cool things about Schoology. As a parent, I can go into my son's Schoology account and I can see what kind of assignments he has been given, what kind of due dates he has. So I can check the calendar and check up with him. And I know that he has a few things due the next day. I can encourage him to make sure that he's got those done or do them for homework. You can reorder the courses by using this little reorder courses button. It's a drag and drop process if you want to move certain courses to the top. When you enter courses, there is a bar on the left-hand side where you are going to be able to access a lot of the different teacher features that are within there. So the first is materials. So materials is where you place all of your assignments and all of your discussion questions and all of the other materials in your course. If you click here, you will only see what you have already created. If you want to add materials, you're going to do it within the course section underneath the name of the course here by clicking down on that menu. Updates are a way to post announcements to your class and give them daily information if you want to do that. I know the schools that I'm working with are looking at posting a daily agenda within those updates so that students have that accessible at the top of their course. Gradebook is where you will put all of your grades, particularly if you are taking advantage of Schoology Grade Passback. That's where you will put all of the grades so that they will sync back to IC. If you are not using Grade Passback, then you will need to talk to your building and your administrators to find out whether there are any gradebook expectations for you. Members down here is where you are going to be able to see all of the students and all of the other administrators that you might have in your course. If you decide to start grouping your students into grading groups, then you would also be able to see those groupings within that tab. Again, the calendar is automatically populated with any of the due dates from the assignments in the courses that you give. Students and teachers can double click on any date and add their own information as well. So for example, on this calendar, everything in orange is a course due date. Everything in blue is a self-created event by the students. And you are able to decide what calendars are visible by coming up to the top and selecting the ones that you want to see. You can also change and tailor what color you want each of those different events to show up in. Teachers can also send specific students or entire classes important dates and non-Schoology assignment reminders. And they can update their own calendar with things like homework, or if they have special events for a club or a sport, they can make sure to add it on as a reminder for themselves. Attached in that Schoology all-in-one document is a really wonderfully laid out course organization guide. And we advise that you use folders to organize your materials. We found that a lot of the feedback we were hearing from schools with the remote learning period in the spring was that people were struggling with a lack of consistency, and students and families and administrators were all struggling to find content easily, especially if they were having to look across multiple classes, multiple students. So we recommend as much as possible that your content is created in a folder structure. Ideally, if you can get campus consensus on what kind of structure you will use altogether, then that is a great way for your students to always know where to look for the documents. So you can organize it by resources and units, you can do it by week and date, or you could do it by skills and content area. The next section is about linking your sections. So this is how you can link sections. If you are teaching multiple sections of a course, then you can link them together in Schoology, and this will help you save time when you are posting assignments and updates. So you can see the little warning here that is highlighted in yellow. Please only link your sections at the very start of the year. If you try to do this mid-year, you're going to start to lose some of your student work and your grades. So this is something you want to do right now before you get started. As soon as your courses are in IC and in Schoology and you get confirmation from your administrators that they are indeed the correct live versions, then the way you would link your courses is by going into your courses and again, going into that My Courses link. You're going to be taking those sections and you're going to see the little gear icon on the right-hand side next to the course name. Means that you can drop down into it and you'll see the green plus sign that gives you the option to link the existing sections. So there's an example here. You can see that like in the Amazing Losasso Sandbox, you had multiple sections that you could link together. But in the Amplify Schoology example course, you only have the single section. So there's nothing else to link. And then finally, in that Digital Citizenship for Schools course, if you are not an admin, you won't be able to actually link those courses. So there's a few error messages that you might see or a few things to be aware of when you're trying to link your courses. So when you engage in this process, sometimes you're going to see that a few of the sections might be grayed out. So this could be because there are additional course administrators that are attached to the course. So if you have a co-teacher who is an administrator in one of your sections, that might prevent you from linking them together. When you link your courses, it's always going to ask you about downloading your gradebook. If you do this at the beginning of the year, you will be downloading an empty document, and that's absolutely fine. If you happen to be doing this mid-year, which is highly not recommended, but if you happen to do it for some reason, then you would want to download your gradebook as a standard CSV file. But again, the recommendation highlighted in yellow at the top is please only do this at the start of the year because it makes it much, much easier and you will not be in danger of losing any of the information. Once you are done making your selections of what sections to link, you will click the Link Sections button at the bottom. So the next section is on adding and creating content. So you are going to learn how to add assignments, links, discussion, and also a Google Meet page to your Schoology course materials. I mentioned before that everybody has a sandbox course. So if you were to go up to the navigation bar, that blue bar at the top, and click the little magnifying glass and look for sandbox, then you should have a course that looks like this, and it's called My Sandbox Course, Section 1, and should have the name of your school here. So this is where we encourage you to play, especially right now when your IC rosters might not have updated and your courses may not be correct. Any materials that you create in your sandbox course can be copied into your regular courses. So this is a great place to be playing around, trying out, creating discussions, assignments, anything else that you think you would like to use, particularly in the first few weeks of the course, and then you can transfer it over. So when you're playing around, I would like to invite you to think a little bit about some of the equity features that are available through Schoology. We are not going to have time to go into these in depth today, but there are tutorials and links in that Schoology all-in-one page document that can start to walk you through things like how to take advantage of the individually assign button on assignments and discussions and assessments, in order to differentiate that work for a single student, or how to add grading groups so that you could push specific assignments out to a group of students, or maybe for a table group that you want to be collaborating together. You can also take advantage in the test quiz option of recording the questions as well. So if students have an accommodation to hear all their questions read to them, you could take advantage of Schoology to do that so that they wouldn't actually need a live person to be delivering that accommodation for them. You can also ask students or invite students to choose the way that they respond to things by doing it in text, or they can record an audio file or a video file within Schoology and attach that as an answer. And also, Schoology has these really cool student analytics that you can use to start to learn how much time your students are taking on assignments and getting a sense of who's taking a really long time to finish it and maybe who's finishing really quickly and needs some additional challenge, so that you can start to more equitably differentiate your instruction and meet every student's needs. When you're adding assignments, again, you're going to be using this course materials section of your page. You can use the Add Materials drop-down menu, but everything you add when you click that button will automatically go to the bottom of the page. So my preference is to navigate to the place that I would like the materials to be. I'll hover there and wait for this green plus sign to show up. And then when I click, the menu will show up there and the material will be created in the location that I want it to. To create an assignment, I need to add the assignment. The required fields are going to be a name for the assignment and a category for the assignment. The categories will start to match up with your gradebook if you have a gradebook set up with it. Otherwise, if you don't want it to go into your gradebook, there is an ungraded category that you can select, but you can't leave this part blank. It's also highly recommended that you put a description of the assignment here within the editing box, and you can see that you have access to various features that will allow you to do things like add a link, insert some content, be able to insert a table, and include additional information for them. And again, it is highly recommended that you put a due date on the assignment so that that will pre-populate into students' calendars. And here as well is where you can adjust the point title. Once you have created your assignment, you can click Create here at the bottom. So Schoology integrates with the Google Drive Assignments app. And if you wanted to create an assignment using a Google Doc or a Google Slide or a Google Drawing, what you would be able to do is click on that button here for the Google Drive Assignments, and you'll get a little box that comes up here. It will come up with your most recent materials first. So if you have recently accessed that document, it may be right here at the top of your page. But if you're accessing something that you created last year in the fall to start the school year, you may need to come up here and search your Google Drive using the little magnifying glass here to find your content. Once you find it, you're going to click it, attach it, and you'll see that it's going to attach to the bottom, and you have the option for it to create a copy of the file for each of your students, which is obviously a great thing to take advantage of. As soon as the first student creates the first submission using this Google Doc, Schoology will automatically create a Schoology folder in your Google Drive, and it's going to nest a folder with your course and then nest another folder with your assignment. And that's where you can locate all of the different submissions if you want to go through your Google Drive to find it instead of looking at the submissions through Schoology itself. You can also add links if you have a video or if you want to use a Google form or any other outside content. Again, I would find my green plus sign at the area that I want to add the content. This time I would click Add File, Link, or External Tool. I would select the link button in the middle, and then I would simply copy the URL, give it a title, and click Add. Schoology also has the capability to create discussions if you want your students to be interacting and collaborating and sharing ideas in an asynchronous manner. This can be a great option. So again, you're going to click Add Discussion in the Add Materials section. And in the discussion, the only required fields are the title, but obviously there isn't much to discuss unless you put in a description here. And then after you do that, you have the option, if you'd like to, enable grading. So if you wanted to create a graded discussion here, you would click that box, and then you would have the ability, either way to put in a due date, but then you'd have the ability to put in points and also assign a category and save those changes to make a graded assignment. So some of you may be particularly concerned about whether or not your students are going to always post responsibly. And if you would like to be able to moderate that discussion, Schoology will enable you to set up moderation so that you can check each of the submissions before they go live to classmates. And that happens under your course options tab. You'd be able to go down and edit the privacy and course settings. And when that box pops up, you would have the opportunities to select moderate, and you can turn that function on or off. So maybe at the beginning of the year, you want to moderate because you don't know your students very well. But as they learn to be more responsible and better digital citizens, then maybe you feel like you can release and take that moderation tab off. So you have the ability to switch that on and off as needed. Schoology is also going to allow you to link in a Google Meet if you are doing live synchronous sessions with your students. And the recommended process that we have for this is going to be to, again, add the materials, but this time we're going to ask you to add a page. On that Schoology all-in-one document, I have attached this image. So you can insert that image as content, and then you can actually link that to a code using your own unique Schoology nickname. And once you do that, it creates a button where the students can simply click once, and it will take them to the Google Meet room. If you are intimidated by that process, there is a tutorial on the all-in-one page, but you could also ask a digital coach for support for that. The important thing, of course, about Google Meets is that you choose a unique nickname to put at the end of the code, because anyone in the dpsk12.net, any staff person, can start a Meet using that code. So it's a great idea to make it a little bit longer, but a little bit more unique. So only the students that you want to end up in your room are there at the same time with you. So using a pattern like your school, a short code for your school, maybe your last name, maybe your content, maybe your period number. The nice thing is, even if this is a little bit longer, if you create the button, the students won't need to be typing it in. So you will be able to create that uniqueness, but still make it very, very user-friendly and easy for students to access. If you are still using Microsoft resources, then your Google champion is going to be somebody who can really help you make that transition to Google before December. But if you want to upload a resource only, and this would be something that you want your students to view but not interact with, you could actually upload that file. So in Add Materials, again, you would select the Add File Link External Tool, and this time you would select the File option. It's going to open up your desktop. You would be able to find that Word document and open it up. If you have Microsoft materials that you use as assignments, then the best practice will be to upload those materials to your Google. So in your Google Drive, you will click File Upload. You will upload that Microsoft Word file. And then in order for it to be super user-friendly for your students, you will want to convert it to a Google Doc. If you have folders and folders of work that you will need to do this process with, I would highly recommend you changing your settings in your Google Drive and making sure that you click the button that allows you to convert your uploaded files to Google Docs editor format automatically. And when you do that, it means that it will take that Word file and automatically convert it to a Google Doc where you can start to make changes. Again, Your Google champion is equipped, ready, and willing to help you if you need some additional help with this particular process of using your Microsoft materials and uploading them to Drive. Finally, we are going to talk about posting updates. So updates is a place where you can create announcements and polls within Schoology. So updates is going to be this second option down here on the left-hand side of your course. When you click updates, you will be able to get into a more limited text box editor. So even though it looks really cool and in courses and images, you would be able to actually put in a video or image file here. You can still do that, but it shows up as a link. So really, updates tend to be very text rich. If you put the link in, they will be able to see something like a video, but they won't be able to see it everywhere. So you can create a daily agenda, for example, here. And if you want that to show up on the top of their course materials page, you can use the little bell here and click it. So check marking that bell is going to make it an announcement that's pinned to the top of your updates and materials page. So this is going to happen each day. As the update changes, the previous announcements and updates will go down and still be available through that updates page, but not necessarily on the course materials page. You can also create an anonymous poll question here. And by doing that, you could drop in a little survey and get some feedback from your class right there within the platform. And if you were to choose to pin your update, like this is an example of what the daily agenda looks like. When students came onto my landing page, I would be able to see as an announcement the daily agenda with the various things that we would be covering that day, and it would occur right above the content that I'm delivering here. Good. So I have raced through this, so I am sure that you have lots and lots of questions. I will open it up to my fellow moderators to see if there is anything that came up a lot that you would like me to cover right now while the live stream is going. And otherwise, we will invite you to do two things. We would like you to make sure that you sign in so that you can get credit for the session. And also do the survey so that I can see where we can do better and improve. But we will also be able to drop that Google Meet code in if you wanted to enter a live Q&A session and get some additional help face-to-face with some of us. So I'm going to ask my moderators if there's any questions you want me to cover right now.
I'll say, yeah, the linking sections ones, that's pretty popular. And I know that we've had a lot of folks asking about that. I will just say, to remind everyone that Erin so wonderfully pointed out, you should only do this before your classes start. So linking or unlinking sections in the middle of the grading period will completely wipe out all of the materials and the grades for your students. So only do this before you have any student data inside of those courses. I think some folks were kind of looking in and seeing if they could link their sections together. You will only be able to do this for courses that are labeled the same in IC and show up together in your Schoology. And I saw some folks highlight, well, one of them's grayed out or one of them says I can't link it. Two things do need to be true for them to be able to be linked. One, all of the students in the sections need to be different. And two, all of the teachers or co-teachers in the class will need to be the same. So we have some collaborative teaching courses where, you know, maybe I have a co-teacher in one of my sections, but not in others. That co-teacher would need to be added to all of your sections for them to be able to be linked together. And I would encourage folks to take a look at our video and other resources around that if they're running into any issues.
Good. Anything else specific about Google Drive connections that you would like me to cover in a little more depth?
This is Steve. I was just noticing that people just kind of wanted to see what the options look like when they're creating an assignment. and how it goes, whether it defaults to creating a copy for each person.
Okay, so if you'd like, what we can do is I will show you a little bit of how this process would look live here in my sandbox section. So there's a few things I would point out. You are able to adjust your picture, and that's really useful in terms of making sure that everybody has a picture attached to their name as you are looking for maybe your colleagues and things like that. The default is really, really tricky to differentiate between. And sometimes when I've been working with staff, I've had a staff and a student who have the same name, and a picture would be really useful for helping me distinguish which one I am working with. It's also a really good practice to put a distinct course picture into your Schoology, because when those courses show up in your dashboard, that's going to be a great visual reminder for students of which course they need to go into. Those tiles are, the image is really big on the tiles. So once I'm in my sandbox course, I can go maybe into my welcome document or folder here. And if I want to add the materials, so if I want to add it to the top, I'm going to wait and hover over the green plus button here. I'm going to click into it, and you can see that my menu opens up here. So I can choose to add my assignment. And I always tell people to do some deep breathing here. This is your opportunity for a mindful moment right now. And again, I have to give the assignment a name. So I'm going to say, again, the description is optional, but highly advised. So you can start to do things like adjust the text size and use it just like you would a basic text editor. If I want to add my Google assignment, that's when I'm going to drop into my Google Drive assignment button here. And you'll see that anything that is possible to add here, like a slides presentation, like a document, like a Google drawing, is going to have the bright colors here. But like this PDF file, I can't add a PDF file, so it's going to be grayed out. So if I click on my Google assignment that I want to attach, you'll see that it adds here to your collaborative slides, sorry, to your assignment here, and it's going to create a copy of the file for each student here. That's when I have the opportunity to put in my due date, change my points, choose my category. These things, your period and the factor and numeric, are probably going to be fairly static through your courses. And then you can create. We have a little bit more time than I thought we might. So just getting into some of those equity features. If I wanted to make this assignment specific to, it's a collaborative slide. So I want different groups of my students to be collaborating on different decks. So I might have a group A here. I can come down to my 3 dots here where it says individually assign, and I can start to put the names of specific students, or I can create a grading group. And I can show you in a second how you would create that grading group. But once I say create, it would then go out to the students that I wanted it to. So the grading groups are a really, it's one of my favorite things about Schoology is the ability to do this. When you go into your members tab here, this is where you will start to see the various members of your courses. So this is my son, and he is a DPS student, and you can see my name is here in gray below his name, which means I'm the guardian attached to his account. So these are the different members of my class. I can go over here where it says organize members into grading groups, and I can add a grading group. So for my collaborative slides activity, I'm going to say I want group A, and I can select the participants that I want to go into group A, and I create that grading group. You can see that now under their name, you can see that they've been assigned to group A. I could then create my group B. And the cool thing about this, if you come down here and look at Digital Coast Lasasso, she is a member of both Group B and Other. So students can be assigned to multiple different grading groups. So if I want to create a group for maybe my English learners, they could also be a member of their Table Group 1 group. They could also be a member of my Orange team, and then I can push out my assignments in different ways. So that's how I would start to create a group. Again, if I was adding materials, yeah. If I wanted to do a discussion and I just wanted it to be in those small groups, another mindful moment where we can all take a few deep breaths while we wait for it to load. Down here, you would see that I would have that individually assign option. I can then select group A. And then group A would have those materials. Another nice feature of Schoology is I can view the course as one of my students. So if I want to double check that maybe support or some additional information went out to a specific group of students, I can click on my course option. I can view the course as, and then I can select the member of my group that I want to see the course from their perspective. And this is how the course will look to that student. So I would be able to come down and see that, yes, indeed, that discussion was included into their materials. I can then go back to the course and continue working just like possible. So there's a few different ways that you can get some support with Schoology. Obviously, we have pulled together a lot of materials and support information on that Schoology all-in-one page document. And you also have access to a digital coach, but there are times that the best way to access support is actually going to be through Schoology itself. So if you go down to the bottom here, this bottom bar also has some cool capabilities. You could change your language down here. If you speak Spanish or Portuguese or Malay or Japanese, then you could actually change the platform delivery language into one of those languages here. But right here in the middle where it says support, you can click on that. And you can see that there are links to some of the various supports. So you can access the dot service support. There's some information of parent and student support here, but there's also a really great help desk here of Schoology folk who can help you out. So if you are working on this after hours and you want to try and contact somebody and your digital coach might not be actually available to you, then the help desk, you could submit your request. The live chat option has been really, really successful when I've tried it. And also there is a phone number and a code that you can use to get some of the best support here. There's also some general user guides, and the Schoology materials, the support materials, are really, really well done, and they are kept very, very current. So as you are looking for additional information, you can always look in the Schoology support page to see if you can access one of those guides, and it can often answer their question. The community feature is where you could maybe put in a suggestion of something that you would like Schoology to be able to do. So that support page can be a great resource to you if you need some extra help on that. Okay, I also have a request on how to link a Google Meet into Schoology. So what I'm going to do, again, I want this to be the first page that my students see on my course. So I am going to come up and hover for my green plus button to be right here at the top. And what I'm going to do is click Add Page. Okay, again, I need to give it a title. I'm going to click into that box description. And over here, I have a little arrow going into a square, and that's my Insert Content button. When I click on this, you can see that there's a lot of different options here. So the one that I'm going to use to create my button is the image or media. And this one, I am going to upload media that is on my desktop. All right. I think I've got this as a download, but look at that. Okay, so I have the Google Meet image here as a download. So you can see I've got my preview and I'm going to open it up. Again, that image is available on that Schoology all-in-one document if you want to use the one that looks like this, but you could also create your own image here and tailor it to your personality, to your class. Once I've done that, in order to make this a hyperlinked button, I'm going to click on the image. You can see that now I have kind of editing capabilities here. And just above, I've got my link button. I'm going to click that once, and now I'm going to need to put in my link or URL. So the code that we need to use now is going to be meet.google.com/lookup/ and now this is where I need my unique nickname. So I can start to play around. And create that code. Once I insert it, I can still, if I want to, and in the example, it still gives students instructions on if they want to access it a different way. You can choose whether or not that's helpful for your class, but once I create this, sorry, there's one more step that I didn't do that you will want to do. This will work. It will take them to another page, but we want that image to be viewable on the homepage. So anytime that I make a mistake like this, I can just go into my gear icon here. I can drop down where it says edit. And this is one of my favorite buttons in Schoology. It looks like a little newspaper. It has ABC on it. And when you hover over it, it says display on new page. But I want this to display inline on my page. And that's how I'm going to make sure that that button is immediately visible to students. So now I am going to, hopefully without giving you guys any feedback on this, I'm just going to show you when I click once into it. You can see that it's taken me directly to that Google Meet room. And you can see that it is there. And I'm going to close out before there is any horrendous sound going through. Good. Is there anything else that would be useful to demo while we are all on the call? You can drop that into the Q&A document, or if one of my moderators would like to, you can drop the live meet link in, and people, if you would like to, you can leave the live stream and you can go ahead and go to your meet.google.com landing page, and we will link in the live Google Meet code, and then you can ask your question live and get live answers from us. So I'm going to just take a quick look to see if we've got that in there.